Hello again, Steve here. I'm just down at the Douglas Channel here near Kitimat. Actually, Kitimat is just, there's the Alcan smelter right there. Big freighter in, as well as one in at the dock on the other side. The Catalonia. See if I can zoom in on it. There you go. Big freighter. And this here inlet is apparently, I just looked it up, 90 kilometers long, and when you get out to the other end of it, to the entrance of it, there's still another 50 kilometers to go to get to the open ocean. It's 140 kilometers from the open ocean, year-round ice-free port in the mountains. It's pretty cool. Pilot boats and tugs over here. So it's a beautiful setting. Smell the ocean. It's kind of neat. Reminds me of my seafaring days. I couldn't resist taking the little 40-minute drive down here, have a look at it. And while I was at it, I just thought of something to talk about again, because it's come up in a discussion I had with somebody recently, this topic of depression. And you know, it's just it's a big topic. It's bigger than I thought, and it's really, I think it's kind of one of those things that I try to hold myself back on saying once in a while is a shame, really, you know, because there's so much, I think, human potential lost through bouts of depression and not feeling as well as we could. I don't know what the cause of it is. I suspect at the bottom of it there's probably dysfunction, a lot of dysfunction going on. Whether it's biological first or the dysfunction's causing the biological, there's probably an element of both. But I suppose as long as we can find within ourselves the ability to affect the controllables in our lives, no matter how we may feel in spite of the biologicals, there's something we can do about it. And I touched on this a few times, just an idea. Once again, ideas on sharing the quality of our life experience, not anything definitive, not any professional opinions or anything like that, just sharing ideas that work for me, because I've never had, I don't think, what I could call any kind of prolonged depression, but everybody has shitty down days, right? And one of the things that works for me, just, well, aside from eating right and doing some exercise, I find that affects the physiology, getting decent sleep, this sort of thing, is, which I'll touch very briefly on before I go on, by the way. I was listening to that thing on Scientology, and no matter what people talk about, no matter how crazy some people's ideas are, there's certain elements of value in there. For example, one of the things that Scientology does is they punish people who are what they call SPs or something. They're people who are out of line. It's kind of their equivalent of the penalty box or the confessional or something like that. And one of the things is they subject them to very harsh type of eating, which is rice and beans. It's no wonder they are able to rehabilitate them. Rice and beans, one man's opinion and experience, there's no finer food on the planet. I mean, this is what has run the vast majority of human energy throughout the years, is rice and beans. So that's one thing that we can maybe do, is put ourselves on a regimen of lots of fruits and vegetables and rice and beans as our energy, or some kind of grain and beans. But on a bigger picture, looking at a bigger picture though, having or working on fostering some sort of an ideal in life, I think really helps, because it can give the reason for living a big purpose, right? I mean, if we look at the word ideal, what we find is that it comes from in its etymology along the lines of a sense of perfection. A sense of perfection. So what I talked about yesterday was having a look at what do we want our world to be? Our world to be. See, that kind of takes us out of ourselves, right? I think a lot of times, this is my sense anyway, that depression can come from the the idea that I'm kind of like, I feel like an island. I feel alone, right? Even in the midst of others, I feel alone with, I don't want to share and this sort of thing. But ideals, I would say, have a way of bringing us out of that, because we get the sense there's more to this than us. Because an ideal is almost, and I like the way that definition, a sense of perfection, but it's a sense of perfection in all aspects. What is the ideal? And it's not like we ever approach the ideal. That's the wonderful thing about it, because we never approach perfection. But nevertheless, with that idea in front and center, what's the ideal world to live in? Continue to look at that. Ask the question, ask the question, ask the question. What is the ideal world to live in? And world, once again, is what we make of it, right? Rather than what is my outward, only my outward. You know, there's aspects of world, like people get involved with environmentalism and all that stuff, and I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that. But until we work on our real world first, which is our internal experience of that and all of that, our relationships, how is our physical health, how are we getting along at work, how are we, and what can we do about it? You know, our family, how is that working out? What does that look like, rather, in relation to how is it working out? You're always seeing the ideal, and then the question of how's that working out? How does it look now? And I've found, and this could be just my experience, I've found by asking and continuing to ask, there becomes greater clarity, and with greater clarity becomes little sort of nuggets that can help on the improvement, on the little bit of a step towards that ever elusive ideal. But the ideal seems to be like a rainbow, like the end of the rainbow, right? It's always to be seen, but never really to be touched. Because the more we improve, the more we can see improvement. But what happens, I find, is that in moments where I felt momentarily depressed, say for a day or whatever, just because it's a shitty day, it seems almost like, it seems to be accompanied with no direction and nothing to do, this sort of thing. Boredom, you might say. Though with an ideal that is constantly toyed with, constantly played with, constantly asked about, it becomes a life's obsession almost, to toy with that ideal. There's always something to do. There's always more. Life has more flowering, if you will, than there is time. Time becomes such a precious, precious commodity, because there's like this overflowing of things one wants to do. Then what becomes important, it seems like, with that clarity of ideal, is the efficiency in what am I going to do today? What is the most effective thing to do? How can I narrow this down so I can actually make progress in developing, growing this ideal world? Just some thoughts anyways. Once again, nothing definitive, but maybe they'll help in some way, I don't know. But once again, just chilling out here, enjoying the wonders. And after being on the prairies, it is a little bit different every time I come out here, although within minutes it's almost like a flashback of, because I'd spent so many years out on the coast. You know, like my eyes look like they're looking up right now. They are, because there's a hill right behind me, something I don't have to do on the prairies. There's basically no horizon here of these mountains, and I'll cast the camera around just to show you a little bit, zoom it in a bit. Right across from me here is this mountain, and I gotta kind of look up at it at about 20 degrees probably. So that would be to the west of the end of the inlet, and this is looking down south of where I'm at. It's a little boat dock there, and across the inlet is the native First Nation of, I forget what it's called now. But anyway, that's the That's the native village across the way, and then across here is one of the docks, and then there is the Alcan smelter. And then where that red ship is right there, right ahead here, beyond that, over those small greens there, that's the town of Kitimat, or the village or whatever. And this is basically just a boat launch. Down here, tide is out, so we've got lots of this here, I guess you call it types of seaweed. I should know the name of it now. Still nice and moist because the tide is out. There's the Pacific Ocean waters in the inlet of Douglas Channel. Once again, great chatting again, sharing a little bit of my surroundings. Steve here, sign off for now. Tonight I drive back to Saskabush and take a couple of videos on the way as well. Talk to you again soon.